My customer Karen mocked me for being a waiter and lied about knowing the owner. But I was the owner, and I left her crying over a $4,000 bill. Karen stormed into my restaurant, screaming that she knows the owner and demanding that we give her and her group of pals the very important person table reserved for celebrities. The trouble is, I own the restaurant, and I have no idea who this lady is. I decided to play along and see what happened. During the dinner, one of the girls asked me whether I thought my life was meaningless because I worked as a waiter. That's when I realized all bets were off, and I was going to exact my retribution. This is what I did. This saga unfolded during the festive whirl of Christmas and New Year's, a time when my restaurant, a cherished family legacy, buzzed with anticipation and cheer. My grandparents, intrepid immigrants from Italy, arrived in Canada in the 1970s, carrying dreams as substantial as the suitcases they bore. With grit and determination, they established a modest eatery that became the cornerstone of our family's heritage. After their passing, my parents inherited this culinary haven, nurturing its growth over decades into a beloved local institution. From the tender age of 15, I immersed myself in its operations, learning the rhythms of the kitchen and the art of hospitality. As my parents aged, they embraced the life of snowbirds, retreating to Florida's sunlit shores for the winter months. A few years ago, they passed the restaurant's mantle to me, retaining a small share of the business to supplement their retirement savings. This transition marked a pivotal chapter in our family's story, one I was determined to honor and elevate. Upon assuming ownership, I embarked on an ambitious overhaul to breathe new life into the establishment. The restaurant, steeped in tradition, required a modern touch to thrive in a competitive landscape. I spearheaded a comprehensive renovation, transforming the dated interior into a sophisticated yet welcoming space. The old logo, a nostalgic relic, was redesigned to reflect a contemporary aesthetic while nodding to our Italian roots. To spread the word, I reached out to local and national publications, securing advertisements that showcased our revamped identity. I extended invitations to food critics, bloggers, and vloggers, hoping their endorsements would draw curious patrons. Initially, the response was dishearteningly slow, and I grappled with self-doubt. The substantial loan I had secured to fund these changes loomed like a specter, threatening to unravel 3 generations of hard-won legacy. I feared I had gambled recklessly, jeopardizing the dread that I might be the one to let our family's dream crumble. Yet, perseverance bore fruit. A local YouTuber, moderately renowned in culinary circles, featured our restaurant in a vibrant video that captured its charm and authenticity. This exposure sparked a surge in interest, drawing food enthusiasts and curious locals alike. Foot traffic swelled, and soon even midweek evenings saw our dining room bustling with 5 to 10 times the usual patrons. The restaurant evolved into a sought-after destination for grand events, from corporate galas to milestone celebrations. It wasn't uncommon for a celebrity to grace our tables, their presence adding a touch of glamour to our evenings. In a bold move, I invited high-profile chefs to host exclusive dining experiences, where they crafted bespoke menus for our guests. These events, though costly, cemented our reputation as a culinary hotspot. By the holiday season, our reservation books were filled months in advance, with eager diners securing December tables as early as July. This transformation, arduous and uncertain, took years to achieve, but it was a testament to the enduring spirit of our family's vision. When the restaurant hums with activity, I eschew the confines of the back office, choosing instead to engage directly with the action. Whether greeting guests with a warm smile, clearing tables with practiced efficiency, or even mopping floors to maintain our impeccable standards, I am a hands-on leader. On evenings hosting high-profile guests or special events, I don a tailored jacket and assume a commanding presence, ensuring every detail aligns with our reputation for excellence. One such night, amidst the holiday fervor, 6 women entered the restaurant, their arrival marked by an air of entitlement. 5 appeared to be in their early 20s, their youthful exuberance palpable, while their leader, a poised woman in her mid-20s, exuded confidence. I speculated she might be an older sibling, or perhaps a senior sorority sister guiding a group of college newcomers. As I greeted them at the entrance, the leader, whom I dubbed Queen Bee Karen, regaled her companions with tales of our restaurant's allure, its delectable cuisine, its vibrant atmosphere. and the tantalizing possibility of spotting a celebrity. Approaching me with an air of authority, Queen Bee Karen declared her need for a table for 6. I responded courteously, "Of course. May I have the name on the reservation?" Her gaze sharpened, and with a dismissive wave she replied, "Oh, I didn't make one, but it's fine. The owner is a close personal friend. He always keeps 1 or 2 tables open for special guests, and we're taking one tonight." Her words carried the weight of assumed privilege, a tactic familiar in high-end dining circles. Indeed, I maintained a few unreserved tables for unexpected VIPs, a practice common in upscale establishments, but this woman was a stranger to me. No prior conversation or arrangement existed to validate her claim. It was clear she was attempting to bypass our stringent reservation policy, a gambit that, unbeknownst to her, she was playing with the very owner she claimed to know. Her audacity intrigued me, but it also rankled, given my deep connection to the restaurant. She had chosen the wrong person to deceive. Yet, rather than confront her outright, I chose to observe how far her ruse would extend, setting the stage for a lesson in humility that would unfold over the course of the evening. The air in the restaurant was thick with the clatter of fine china and the hum of animated conversation, a symphony of festivity that defined our busiest nights. Yet, beneath the polished veneer of hospitality, a storm was brewing. When Queen Bee Karen, as I later dubbed her, confronted me with her audacious claim, I felt a flicker of indignation. I responded with measured courtesy, my voice steady despite the rising tide of irritation. "I'm terribly sorry, ma'am, but we cannot seat anyone without a reservation. As you can see, every table is occupied. I could have revealed my identity then and there, proclaimed that I, the owner, had no recollection of her supposed friendship, but I restrained myself. The last thing I wanted was to humiliate her in front of her entourage, a gaggle of young women who trailed her like eager acolytes. Their eyes sparkled with the thrill of her boldness, unaware of the fiction she was weaving. Unfazed by my refusal, Queen Bee Karen's demeanor shifted from entitled to menacing. She instructed one of her companions to snap a photograph of me, her finger wagging as she declared, "I'll have a word with the owner, and by the end of the week you'll be scrubbing toilets or out of a job." Her words were a calculated jab, meant to sting. The other girls, whom I silently labeled the baby Karens, chimed in with gleeful malice, their voices dripping with condescension. "Yeah, say goodbye to your minimum wage gig," one sneered, her tone laced with the smugness of youth. I couldn't discern whether they were complicit in her ruse or genuinely believed her fabricated connection to the owner. Their collective disdain hung in the air, a challenge to my authority and a test of my patience. Queen Bee Karen pressed her advantage, leaning in with a predatory glint in her eye. "Listen," she said, her voice low and threatening. "You can either give us a table, or I'll make your life miserable. This isn't worth losing your job over." She punctuated her words with sharp gestures, her pointed finger attempting to diminish me to nothing more than a lowly employee. "Clearly, you're nobody here," she continued, "because if you were, you'd know who I am and wouldn't dare say anything but yes or of course." Her relentless attempts to belittle me were as calculated as they were infuriating, each barb designed to secure the coveted table. The day had already been grueling, a marathon of managing a packed house and high expectations. Standing there, facing her audacity, I weighed my options. I could expose her lie, revealing myself as the owner and dismantling her charade. I could acquiesce, granting her the table and letting her ego triumph. Or I could orchestrate a lesson she wouldn't soon forget. The third path called to me, a siren song of retribution. With a smile that masked my resolve, I acquiesced. "Of course, ma'am, please follow me," I said, my tone dripping with feigned deference. I led them to one of the 3 tables we reserved for unexpected VIPs, a privilege occasionally claimed by celebrities who graced our establishment. "I apologize for the misunderstanding," I continued, "and you're right. It's easier to accommodate you." To sweeten the trap, I added, "The first 3 rounds of drinks are on the house." Their faces lit up, oblivious to the web I was weaving. I seated them at the very important person table, its polished surface gleaming under the soft glow of chandeliers, and took on the role of their personal server. As they settled in, I requested, "We'll need a credit card and ID to keep on file, which we'll return before you leave." Queen Karen, with a flourish of confidence, handed over her card and announced to her minions, "Tonight's on me." Her declaration was a bold stroke, painting her as the magnanimous leader of this entitled pack. I took their orders with meticulous care, delivering their complimentary beverages with a flourish. "It's an exceptionally busy night," I warned, "so your meals may take a bit longer than usual." The women, however, were fixated on their free drinks, their laughter growing louder with each round. They consumed 3 rounds without a morsel of food, their impatience manifesting in sharp glances and curt remarks. Eventually, they summoned me, demanding an update on their meal while maintaining the same abrasive attitude they'd displayed since their arrival. "I'll check on it," I assured them, then added, "Would you like another round of drinks?" They eagerly ordered 2 more, their judgment clouded by the allure of free cocktails. By the time the appetizers arrived, they were visibly inebriated, having spent hours drinking on empty stomachs, nibbling only on delicate salads. As their entrees arrived, they ordered yet more drinks, their extravagance unchecked. Unbeknownst to them, they occupied our most exclusive table, typically reserved for high-profile guests and commanding a fee of several $1,000s, which I graciously waived. Beyond the initial 3 rounds, every cocktail they ordered carried a premium price, each sip adding to an escalating tab. The VIP table came with a bespoke menu, a closely guarded industry secret that omitted prices to maintain an air of exclusivity. This menu featured opulent offerings, white truffle-infused dishes, black caviar delicacies, and rare West Coast oysters flown in at great expense. Each selection was a testament to luxury, and their orders reflected an unbridled indulgence they hadn't anticipated would come at such a cost. Midway through the evening, a pang of doubt pierced my resolve. Was I taking this too far? These young women, caught up in their leader's bravado, might not fully grasp the consequences of their actions. I questioned whether my plan was less about justice and more about vengeance. Yet, their behavior steeled my determination. One of the baby Karens, her voice tinged with disdain, asked if I found my life meaningless, reduced to just a server. The comment stung, not because it was true, but because it revealed their arrogance. A staff member later informed me that the group was plotting ways to toy with me, confident they could manipulate me into compliance whenever they wished. I overheard another remark, "He's cute, but I'd never date a waiter." Such a pushover. Their words, dripping with entitlement, echoed through the night, fueling my resolve to see this lesson through. By evening's end, each woman had accrued a bill between $500 and $600. I presented Queen Karen with the total, $4,223, inclusive of tax and tip. Her transformation was instantaneous, from carefree revelry to near tears, her face paling as the reality of the sum sank in. She beckoned me over, her voice trembling. "Is this a joke?" she demanded. I took the bill, feigning concern, and replied, "My apologies, let me fetch the correct amount." She exhaled, assuming the error lay with someone else's tab, and muttered, "You effing idiot," before resuming her chatter with her friends. When I returned with the same bill, her outrage erupted anew. "Is there something on here you didn't order?" I asked calmly. Stunned, she and her companions pored over the itemized list, noting the complimentary first 3 rounds but grappling with the staggering cost of their choices. They pulled out their phones, frantically recalculating, as if arithmetic could alter their fate. Queen Bee, now visibly shaken, excused herself to the restroom. I suspected she might attempt to flee, leaving her companions to face the consequences, but I subtly reminded her, "We have your ID and credit card on file," ensuring she understood escape wasn't an option. 10 minutes later, she returned, her makeup freshly applied to mask the tears that had clearly fallen. She launched into a tirade about the subpar food and dreadful drinks, demanding I have the bill. She added that her friends would chip in, contradicting her earlier boast that the night was her treat. The audacity of her complaints, after hours of indulgence, only deepened my resolve to hold firm. Then, as if a light bulb went off in her head, she brought up her alleged relationship with the owner again, as if it would give me extra motivation to lower the amount in half. I smiled as I told her, "No, simply no, I can't cut the bill." She took out her phone and showed me a series of text messages from someone named after my restaurant, followed by the word owner. I instantly grasped what she had been doing in the bathroom, most likely changing one of the other Karen minions' contact names and erasing prior texts to establish this new script. I reviewed the messages and clicked on the contact information before telling her, "That's not the owner's cell phone number." Her response was, "He has multiple phones for business. Of course, you do not know all of his numbers." I replied, "How about this? If we call him and he says it's okay to take 50% off the bill, then I'll do it." Her response was to begin ranting and screaming, which drew the attention of the few remaining patrons, and I knew it was time to finish this. I told her in a less conciliatory tone, "Cut the crap, little girl. You do not know the owner. You've never been here before, and if you continue ranting, I'll call the cops." Her tone changed as she attempted to defend herself as best she could. My response to her lame retort was, "My grandfather established this restaurant. My family has been running this establishment for decades. I've worked here for nearly my entire life. I am the sole owner of this restaurant, and I have never seen you, heard of you, or made any promises to a stranger I have never seen before tonight." The little Karens were frozen and had no idea how to react. Queen Bee was in tears. I added, "Now, I provided you the table you wanted, one of these particularly reserved tables for high-end clientele, which I did not charge you for, as well as 3 rounds of free drinks. If you do not pay your account, I will call the cops and give them your identification." Karen signed the bill in tears, and the tiny Karens reached into their wallets to hand her whatever cash they had, which was probably a couple $100s, with the promise to repay her more. 2 days later, an angry man arrived at my restaurant and requested that one of my bartenders talk with me. I was in the back office working, so he had to wait for about half an hour. She was with him too, but she kept her head down. I took them both to my office and showed him highlights from the security cameras, which had particularly high-quality audio because they were in the very important person area. We needed to keep good records in that region due to previous unconnected incidents. I showed him the majority of it, their remarks, orders, everything. When all was said and done, he rushed out with her, yelling at her the entire way. I have not seen or heard from any of them since, but the initial bill I gave them, which did not include the $120 oysters, is framed on my desk. As a side note, I did not lose as much money on the table and 3 rounds of drinks as you might expect. The table was intended to be empty anyway, so I didn't lose anything because I hadn't expected to gain anything in the first place. The cost of the meal and other drinks more than compensated for the loss in the first 3 rounds. So now that you know everything, am I the jerk? Probably the most astonishing thing about the Karens in this situation, aside from the money, trying to muscle their way into securing a seat and avoiding paying the bill, was their perspective on the world. That solitary statement concerning the original poster's inadequacy as a waiter definitely stood out. It seems that the original poster was going to loosen up on his entire vengeance plan, but then one of the baby Karens asked him if he felt his life was meaningless because all he had become was a waiter. That has to be one of the most insanely entitled viewpoints we've ever seen. It may not be as exciting or insane as some of the other stories, but the fact that she actually sees the world in this way is simply sick. There is absolutely nothing wrong with having a job, regardless of the income. This occurs frequently with jobs such as janitors, and I despise it when individuals believe they are superior just because they do not work in those positions. There is nothing wrong with becoming a janitor. I don't understand that mindset, but in this situation, she not only feels that way but also wants to mock him for doing a difficult job such as being a waiter, or at least that's what she believes he's doing. One more thing. I'm happy this story ended on a somewhat gratifying note, with the father attempting to reverse the situation but becoming more enraged with his daughter than the restaurant owner. The only thing that scared me was that the restaurant was recording audio of the folks sitting at that table. I would probably avoid going to a restaurant if I knew my talks were being recorded. Anyway, I'm glad it worked out for the original poster, but please tell me how you would have handled the matter if it were your restaurant and these were your customers. Was the original poster a jerk or not, and why? Queen Bee Karen and her group attempted to manipulate their way into a VIP table by falsely claiming a connection to the owner, then proceeded to belittle and insult the AP, assuming he was just a waiter. Their entitled behavior, including mocking his perceived job and threatening his livelihood, warranted a response. The op's decision to give them the VIP table and let them rack up a large bill was a calculated way to teach them a lesson about their dishonesty and disrespect. By offering 3 rounds of free drinks and not charging for the VIP table itself, the op mitigated potential accusations of unfairness, as the high bill resulted from the group's own choices to order expensive items.